After Tampa Bay lost in Carolina on Sunday, video surfaced of Buccaneers receiver Mike Evans stopping with the officials, writing something on a piece of paper. The NFL investigated as to whether or not Evans was asked by the officials to give an autograph, which is a violation of the NFL Referees Association, CBA. The league decided that there was no violation, but then the league would not say what it was that Evans was doing. Yesterday, Evans met with reporters, and here's what he said about whatever it was that he was doing in that interaction with the officials.
I wasn't signing my autograph, I tell you that. I talked to a lot of officials, and we're all human beings. He's a nice guy. So we're just talking about, golf. That's all we was talking about.
Okay, but what were you writing? And I feel bad challenging Mike Evans on this. Somehow he's got it in his head that he was doing something wrong. I think he's not doing anything wrong. It's not wrong for him to give the autograph to the officials. It's wrong for them to ask. Now, maybe he doesn't want to piss them off. Maybe he doesn't want to throw them under the bus. Maybe he's covering for them, to avoid negative treatment and maybe to get some positive treatment, because these are the guys who are calling the games. I'm not going to say anything that may hurt them. If anything, I'm going to help them. But it's just the whole thing is odd. And I didn't care much about it until they started this clumsy, awkward effort to tell us it's not what it looked like, but we're not going to tell you what it was.
Right. Yeah, it is. That's where it's awkward. Honestly, again, officials, in my experience, they are usually extremely professional. It is rare to see that right there, that they cross that line of just like, hey, shake the hand, good luck, maybe talking to you on the way off the field or pregame warm-ups. That's where I guess I'm a little shocked. I feel like they usually know, especially in that setting right there. Hey, there's cameras around. That was the surprising thing to me. Now, is it surprising that Mike Evans is talking to an official who it sounds like, is an alumni of the same college he went to? No. And first off, is it surprising for any player that's played as long as Mike Evans to not know some of these referees by name? I mean, some of these guys, again, too, you see them a few times a year. You're lining up, and, hey, it's the guy you're looking at, right, to line up. He's a receiver. Hey, referee Jeff, am I on the line of scrimmage? Hey, yeah, hey, and he goes over and talks to him during a TV timeout. Didn't you think that was pass interference and all? So those relationships get made. We know that in every sport. They know, some of these guys by their first names as far as players and refs. But that's where it was just odd, is the fact that, yeah, you don't see, hey, here's a piece of paper and a pen. And it's just, again, to your point and what you've always said, in this gambling era, and, everything's a conspiracy right now in our country and in the world. It just opens up Pandora's box for everybody to question things. And that's where it's not a good look for the NFL. And I feel like referees usually know better, when it comes to this type of stuff.
That was my reaction when this first came up. The tinfoil hat crowd is going to have to go buy more tinfoil, because this supports these suspicions. And I try to argue all the time, the fix isn't in. The officials aren't corrupt.
Right.
And stuff like this makes it harder for me to convince people
I know.
the fix isn't in.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Here's what the NFL said. Here's the official statement after they investigated the situation. After speaking with the individuals involved, we have confirmed that the post-game interaction between Jeff Lamberth, Trip Sutter, and Mike Evans did not involve a request by the game officials for an autograph. Both Lamberth and Sutter have been reminded of the importance of avoiding even the appearance of impropriety when interacting with players, coaches, and club staff on game day, including during the pregame and postgame time periods. If they did nothing wrong, the second paragraph is irrelevant. They're acknowledging there that what they did was enough to make people think they did something wrong. That in and of itself is a problem. And I know the rules that apply to lawyers, the guidebook, the rules of professional conduct, there were provisions in there about avoiding impropriety and the appearances of impropriety, that the mere appearance of impropriety in and of itself is punishable because you can't be creating bad looks. That's how seriously you have to take these duties that you have. You can't, yet regardless of what they were doing, that's enough.
Yeah.
For there to be a violation. Mm-hmm. Maybe that should be the rule. And it sounds like it kind of is, because they reminded them to avoid the appearance of impropriety, because they did create, Chris, an appearance of impropriety.
They definitely did. I mean, that's it's all. I mean, it's been one of the biggest stories in the league the last 2-3 days here, just because of this.
And they made it that way
Right.
by how they handled it. The cover-up is worse than the crime, and the crime itself was no big deal. But once they start, and what I did once we got the statement, I emailed a league spokesperson and said, if it wasn't a request for an autograph, what was it then? We will have no further comment. Wait a minute. The example I used on PFT yesterday was, if the doorbell camera shows something that looks like me letting the air out of my neighbor's tires on his car, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I wasn't letting the air out of your tires. Well, what were you doing then? I have no further comment at this time. He's not going to accept that explanation. So I don't think we should accept this explanation. And when you parse the language of this statement, it did not involve a request by the game officials for an autograph. I don't know. Were they asking for an autograph on behalf of somebody else? Was it for some charity? I don't know. It just, when you watch, I don't want to Zapruder film this video, although, Chris, maybe you do. But
not JFK.
I mean, but watch 57 point to a spot. Watch. They come down the hall. The guy on the right, the guy on the left. There they are. Yeah. Okay. Watch the other guy. He points to the spot where to write. Like, why do you need to get on the right side and point? Like, what is that? That's not just something you're writing on. There's a specific spot to write whatever he writes. And NFL media, which is owned and operated by the National Football League, reported. Now, the league can't come out and say what it was for whatever reason, but one of its reporters on the payroll says Mike Evans was writing down his phone number because the other guy, the official who went to Texas A&M, like Mike Evans, knows a golf pro that's going to give Mike Evans lessons. Well, maybe he did the rest of the writing off camera, because he sure as hell didn't write 10 digits down when he did
didn't
whatever
look like
that
he wrote anything down.
Was.
It was like he was about to write something, and then they moved along.
I think one of them looked at that camera, and they kept on going. But again, I don't want to Zapruder film the thing, but I'm going to. There's a moment where one of the guys, the one standing to the left of Mike Evans, kind of looks over and is like, oh, we're on camera, let's keep going. So who knows what happened off camera, but Evans still had the pen and he still had the card, so there was something that happened. But it's just odd that he would start. Like, this is where common sense kicks in. Anytime you're in a situation like that, do you start and then walk down the hall and finish? You just start. If you stop and start writing, you're going to finish what you're doing. It's not a two-part exercise. The whole thing is weird to me, Chris, and they made it weird by just refusing to tell us exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, it is. It is weird. It's just weird that they chose right there in a place where there's always fans as you walk in the tunnel and people hanging around, and of course there's going to be cameras and phone cameras and all of that. Again, I'm surprised that the official didn't find a way to go get somebody outside the locker room at some point to go do it in a few minutes. That's usually how something like that would go down, and again, I don't know either, Mike. It could be anything. Yeah, it could be, hey, Giga Aggies, how do the Aggies look, blah, blah, blah. Hey, do you know Johnny? Johnny said he played golf with you. He said your swing was all messed up. I mean, it could be all that. It could be. It doesn't matter. It's just not the proper look. That's the bottom line there. And then, yes, when like you said, it's like they're writing something, and then it's like, oh, wait, hey, let's go over here and get out of the way a little bit. It just looks fishy. It looks suspicious, even though I really want to believe Mike Evans at his word there that, it was, probably something along the lines of what he's talking about.
But why didn't I almost feel like the way he explained it, I almost feel like whatever story, look, and I'm not saying this is the case, but this is what happens when you don't tell us the truth. You invite speculation that this golf lessons phone number thing was concocted, and in the moment, Evans realized, I can't pull this off. I can't do this with a straight face. We were talking about golf. Is not the same as I was giving them my phone number so someone who is going to give me golf lessons could get in touch with me. We were talking about golf is not it. And there's just an element of every aspect of this that is odd. And really, and again, this is where appearance of impropriety is an issue. Mike Evans wants to get calls in his favor. He knows that these are human beings. He said it himself. They're human beings. They're influenced by the same things that the other human beings are influenced by. He does not want to throw them under the bus. He's doing them a favor. And, they're going to cross paths again at some point, and there's going to be an opportunity for one of those two guys to say, hey, man, thanks for what you did. And whatever he did, he didn't get them in any more trouble than they otherwise would have been in, Chris.
No, he didn't, and it's so be it. But the lesson is the lessons learned, and just the referees and the NFL. Here's the lesson. Don't engage in corrupt activities in view of camera. If you're going to do it away from the camera.
Well,
you just got to be careful. Again, it's just right now, people question everything. And like you said, with the gambling state and all the casinos involved in the NFL, it's going to make people question, especially the ones who are losing money. They're going to always feel like, oh, it's out to get me. It's rigged. I mean, that's what all you ever see. So that's where it opens the door for that conversation.
At a time when they are encouraging the referees to exercise their full and complete latitude and discretion to throw a flag whenever in doubt about whether or not a quarterback was possibly roughed in order to ensure that the full complement of quarterbacks is healthy at all times, you're giving that kind of power, extra power to the referee. Yeah, it's going to make people wonder how that power is ultimately used and whether it's the Grady Jarrett flag that shouldn't have been a flag that may have altered the outcome of the Falcons-Bucs game. The Falcons still covered. Or whether it was the Chris Jones thing, the bad words. Oh, you said bad words to Matt Ryan. I'm going to throw a flag, and they still never told us what Chris Jones said.
Right.
And the attitude then was, go ask Chris Jones. And there was that attitude yesterday. Richard Sherman, I was surprised. Richard Sherman's kind of becoming a company man now. Well, why don't you go ask Mike Evans? Well, because the NFL's the one who should tell us what this guy said. It shouldn't be for Mike Evans to say anything. He should not have to explain himself at all in this because he did nothing wrong. The NFL should have the transparency in place where they tell us what was happening. We shouldn't have to go ferret out bits and pieces of a story. The NFL should stand up and say, we investigated it, and this is what occurred. Not, well, it wasn't an autograph. What was it then? We're not going to tell you.
Well, they're not going to tell us because, again, the phone number thing is not a good look either. Whether it probably is 100% totally innocent, but the phone number thing is not a good look either. It's worse than the autograph. So, I
don't know that it is. It paints a picture that they're a little too chummy. Right?
Well,
you're a little too chummy with guys that should be completely detached and above and beyond the fray.
Well, yes,
is that why
but
it's
now,
a bad look?
Well, yeah, it does. It looks that way, and to me, it's like with the autograph. Yes, it looks chummy, but now with like a phone number, it looks chummier. I mean, in the fact of like, hey, I'll text you later. All right, I'll text you later and tell you that I missed that call on 3rd and 7. My bad. I'll make it up to you next week. That doesn't look good either.
You're right. It lays the foundation for a relationship that may continue beyond the confines of the game itself.
Right.
And what kind of relationships are in place between officials and I'd never thought about that before. Are there quarterbacks out there who text game officials? Are there game officials who
I haven't
text
heard
players?
of it, but I'm sure it's happened before.
Now that turd's been dropped in the punch bowl.
Right.
It's funny. Again, this is why I love this show, because it's a chance for just two guys to sit around and talk about football. I'm thinking, it's no big deal. If all he's doing is getting his number to give it to somebody who's going to give him lessons in golf, why is it a big deal? Well, that may be a wall that should never be broken down. Maybe that's the case.
Yeah. I think that's where Mike Evans is probably during that, just, hey, we're talking about golf, and he can't be totally honest there, too, because he probably knows, oh, yeah, I was just writing my number down to the line judge. The guy that's going to be doing one of our key NFC South battles in a few weeks. Yeah, that guy. So I'm sure he was a little bit trying to protect, the overall referees and just the league itself from, a bad look that, I think probably was very innocent, but it doesn't look good.
And nothing that I've said or written should be regarded as a criticism of Mike Evans. He has been put in a difficult spot here. He's done nothing wrong, period. And He shouldn't have had to explain it. It shouldn't have been a topic. The NFL should have said everything that needed to be said. So all that Mike Evans would have had to say yesterday was the NFL's issued a statement on it. That's exactly what happened. What the NFL said is exactly what happened. Because that's what should have happened. They should have found out what happened, and they should have said what happened. So all Mike Evans would have to say is what they said happened. But isn't it weird, Chris? I know we got to take a break. But isn't it weird for as mild-mannered, as friendly, as great of a guy as Mike Evans is, he's got this strange knack for popping up in these bizarre controversies. It was exactly a year ago that it was Evans that threw the Tom Brady 600th football into the stands, and they had to go bribe the guy to give the ball back, and there was this big to-do, and Mike Evans is right in the middle of it. And then every once in a while, never gets into an issue with anyone, but blows a gasket with Marshawn Lattimore. And now this thing, it's like, of all the receivers in the NFL, the most unassuming, quietest, friendliest, mild-mannered guy gets sucked into all these controversies.
Well, I think that's, partly why. One, Marshawn Lattimore, that's a personal, professional battle they got. But, Mike, and you know this, more times than not, 99 out of 100, players are good guys. They want to be good to people. They want to take care of them. They're, generally these are, that type of guy in the NFL. And Evans is one of them. You can't talk to anybody that won't tell you Mike Evans isn't an awesome person. And yeah, he's just going to be polite to the referees and talk to them. And hey, here's the guy, and he's not thinking about, the record and all that. He's going to make the fan happy. So that's where, again, sometimes the positives of the player get used against them here. And, because he's a good guy, now he's being questioned about, things he did after the football game. And, that's where I try to defend players certainly all the time.
All right, power rankings time.
Uh-oh.
It's Wednesday. It's part of what we do. You get to chime in. Chris gets to tell me how stupid I am. We'll do all that when PFT Live, presented by Google Pixel, continues right after this.
You're stupid.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.